It is Unsportsmanlike here on ESPN Radio. I'm Michelle Smallman alongside Chris Canty. And CC, the Knicks got their guy. It's official. Mike Brown, the 32nd coach in team history. He looked the part yesterday, navy blue suit. He had the Knicks pin on the lapel. Said all the right things at the press conference, but now it's time to get to work. He talked about that yesterday, too. Oh, he's making a concerted effort to take his fiancée to all the different restaurants in New York City now, because he knows once the fall happens that he's not going to have a lot of time to spend with her, because he understands the task at hand that he has with the New York Knicks. Of course, when you become the coach of any organization, you want to bring home a championship, but this is an organization that is coming off an Eastern Conference Finals berth for the first time in a quarter century, and that was not good enough for them, and they moved on from Tom Thibodeau. They called almost every head coach currently employed in the NBA and said, "You up?" And they got the stiff arm from them, and they finally find their guy in Mike Brown. But he knows that the only thing that will be acceptable for this organization and their fan base is to hang a banner. Here's what Mike Brown had to say yesterday at his introductory news conference.
Our goal, starting with Mr. Dolan, to Leon, to the players, all the way down to the fans, is to build a sustainable winning culture that produces championships. That's why I'm here. I'm fortunate to know what it takes to create that success. A lot of hard work, a high level of commitment, and a focus on today.
So he understands what the goal is, CC. And most coaches, when they step into a role like that, understand that they have a certain amount of runway to get it done.
Yeah.
Mike Brown acknowledged yesterday that the expectations are to win now and that he's embracing that. Here's what he had to say.
Nobody has any bigger expectations, first of all, than I do. My expectations are high. But I mean, this is the Knicks. I talked about Madison Square Garden being iconic. I love and embrace the expectations that come along with it. So I'm looking forward to it.
He's loving and embracing the expectations that are coming along with this organization, CC, but is it too much? Is it too much expectation on him before he's even coached a game as the head coach of the New York Knicks to say it's championship or bust?
Well, I'm not going to say it's too much. The job is the job. And it sounds like he's fully aware that the bar couldn't be higher in terms of what he has to accomplish given the roster that he inherited from Tom Thibodeau. Now, I think that when it comes to the impetus for the Knicks to move on from Tibbs, it was about being more collaborative with the front office with Leon Rose. And Mike Brown made sure in his introductory press conference to mention that he wants to work hand in glove with Leon Rose. It's too hard to do it by yourself. You got to be working with people. So I think it's a focus that we've seen across sports, but specifically in this situation where the individuals in the front office want to be more collaborative with the coaching staff. And I actually understand the logic, even though I disagree with the dismissal of Tibbs, because if you look at this New York Knicks team, it's supposed to be an offensive-led roster, right? It's an offensive team. That's the identity based on the players that they've been able to assemble. Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns are never going to be noted as world beaters on the defensive end. We can all agree on that.
Absolutely.
But the problem with what we saw from the New York Knicks is that they were mid, the definition of mid, for the majority of the regular season and postseason, right? From January 1st until the end of the postseason, the New York Knicks ranked 16th in offense. 16th.
Wow.
So even though they finished with a top 5 offense on the season, they ranked 16th in offense from January 1st to the end of the regular season. Couple that with the fact that your starting 5 had a net negative during that same span. So when we talk about ratings for your starting 5, they were a net negative. So you got a net negative rating, and you have the 16th ranked offense from January 1st until when you got bounced by the Indiana Pacers. That ain't good enough.
No.
Not for an offensive-led team. And so that's going to be the challenge for Mike Brown and Leon Rose to figure out how they can get that turned around, how this team can play their best ball, especially on the offensive end when the games matter the most. And I think that's the part of this job that becomes tricky, because it feels like the New York Knicks and Leon Rose are pot committed to the roster as constituted. They filled out their bench. They got Yabusele, a big from the Sixers. They ended up getting Jordan Clarkson. So they've got other reliable veterans that they can pull off the bench. So hopefully that helps to keep your starters fresh throughout the regular season so they're not spent once they get in the playoffs. But make no mistake about it, there's going to have to be some tinkering in terms of their offensive philosophy, their defensive strategy, if this team is going to be able to get to where they want to go. Now, they got the benefit of some good fortune because of everything that's going around them in the Eastern Conference and things being in flux, but this is not going to be a layup by any stretch for the New York Knicks, because teams like the Atlanta Hawks, the Orlando Magic, the Detroit Pistons, who had a long series with the Knicks in round one, those teams are coming.
No doubt.
Those teams are not sitting on their hands. So, yeah, this is a very high bar for Mike Brown to clear, and the expectations are even loftier than you would expect for a team that finished in the Final Four, just because of all of the flux that's happening with the top-end teams in the East.
So with all that being said, that the organization is not sitting on their hands. They're saying getting to the Eastern Conference Finals is not good enough. We fire Tibbs. We bring you in. We think that the personnel we have is good enough to bring home a chip. Oh, and by the way, it seems like the road has been cleared to some degree. The path has been cleared for us to get to the championship in an easier way because of everything that's happening in the East, as you mentioned. With all that being said, is there anyone in the NBA that has more pressure on him than Mike Brown to bring home a championship this year?
More pressure in the NBA? Starting to look at Cleveland a little sideways. Starting to look at Kenny Atkinson a little sideways. He's done a great job in terms of getting the foundation set with a really young core, but starting to look at Cleveland now, gaudy regular season record, best record in the East, second best record in the entire NBA. We were wondering who the best team in the league was, Cleveland or OKC, even at the end of the regular season. We were having that conversation.
Absolutely, they were amazing.
And so if you're the Cleveland Cavaliers, it feels like it's on a silver platter for you. This is the time to assert yourself with Evan Mobley, Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, and others. This is the time to put your foot on the gas. So it feels like Kenny Atkinson in the Eastern Conference has a lot of pressure on him. It's not quite the same as Joe Mazzulla did in his first couple of years in Boston, but it's going that direction when you look at how well constructed the Cleveland Cavaliers roster is.
When we talk about the pressure on the Knicks because of the circumstances that have unfolded in the East, we don't apply that to Cleveland in the same manner. And we should.
Yeah.
Based on their personnel, based on how dominant they were throughout the regular season, why aren't we putting more pressure on Cleveland? Why is it on the Knicks' shoulders?
Because we don't trust them. Without LeBron James on that team, we don't trust the Cavs. That's just the reality of the situation.
It always comes back to LeBron.
And it's so unfair to the guys there because, listen, Darius Garland and Evan Mobley and Donovan Mitchell, those are all-stars, right? Jared Allen is a really, really good player. I mean, we just don't attribute that same ceiling to the Cleveland Cavaliers as we do some of the other teams in the NBA that had 50-plus wins. We just don't. And so I think that the Cavs, we're looking at them and we're saying, this is the time that you need to step up. If there was ever an opportunity with the Boston Celtics down, the New York Knicks switching head coaches, everything that's going on, Milwaukee in flux with the Damian Lillard injury and everything that they've done this offseason to try to keep Giannis, the Pacers with Tyrese Halliburton being hurt, if you're the Cleveland Cavaliers, if not now, when? When is it going to happen? If you don't do it now, when? If you don't get out of the East now, when is it going to happen? So I would say that Mike Brown has a ton of pressure, but not the most pressure in the East, and certainly not the most pressure in the NBA.
Does that go to Ime Udoka?
He's in the conversation. Now that you got
Kevin Durant,
you're in the conversation.
I know it's a tough West, but you bring in Kevin Durant, all of a sudden that seat gets a little hotter. Not that he's going anywhere.
He's in the conversation.
Yeah.